Welcome to the kindergarten and first grade New York State Education Department Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards around networks and systems design. On the bottom of your screen and on your slide deck, you will have access to click on the link that will take you out to the State Ed website with all of the standards and resources. Within networks and systems design, there are two sub-concept areas. These standards, there's only 5 of them, is one of the smaller sections as far as the concepts go, and maybe one that you might find a little bit more difficult to weave into your already created content or your expected pacing guides, that sort of thing. But you may find that with some small shifts in how you do daily tasks in your classroom, and thinking about how you use the technology in your classroom, you may find that you can embed these standards without actually having to do some direct instruction or a lot of direct instruction on the standards. The sub-concept areas are broken down into hardware and software, which is thinking about the physical components and the programs that we actually use. And then networks and the internet is thinking about how things are connected, how data is stored, how it transfers or transmits data between different devices around the world. So just like at the other levels, we are coming out to the page where you have 3 resources, the first being the State Ed examples, the second being further resources, and we're going to spend our time on the activity books that were created for you to help you embed these standards into your classroom. So we're going to go to the kindergarten and first grade book. We're going to click Read Now. We're going to click the arrow, and then we're going to click on the sub-concept area of networks and systems design. You'll note on the page that you do have this 2 sub-concepts listed, and then as we go into the book, you're going to see some of the standards. Now here you'll notice that we don't have an activity yet put into this book, but you may have in your edition. We are constantly updating these books to make sure that we're hitting everything that is needed as we're building these, as classrooms are starting to roll these out. So the first sub-concept area is hardware and software. The first standard is identify ways people provide input and get output from computing devices. We're thinking about how we interact with our computers and thinking about how we use technology in our daily life. So this could be a sorting activity. It could be thinking about things you do in real life versus things you do online. So it could be thinking about like our human senses and that sort of thing. So again, it could be a quick little discussion versus a full-blown lesson. Moving on to the hardware and software, second one, we are going to identify the basic hardware components that are found on computing devices. So this could be, labeling the parts of a computer. It's building a vocabulary journal and thinking about what different devices can do and how they function. Moving on to hardware and software number 3, we're thinking about that identifying the hardware and software but problems. So it's troubleshooting. A student says their Chromebook isn't working. Have another student be your techspert in the room to help out to figure out why it's not working and to support them. As we get into networks and the internet, you're going to see standard number 4, identify how protocols and rules help people share information over long distances. So you can have your students play the game telephone or thinking about the rules of mailing a letter versus sending an email versus a text for your students to start to explore what we're talking about when we're thinking about how data travels. And then finally, the last one is identifying physical devices that can store information. So having your students list the things they use at home as far as devices, think about how we're storing information, where we're putting them on our Chromebook or on our iPads as we're using different devices in the classroom. And that's it. It's a really small area and, can be really fun to be able to explore these standards in the classroom, but it's not as in-depth as the computational thinking or the impacts of computing were.